We're going to go to 1965.
Okay.
Now, last in the Army in that area.
Okay.
Before we get there, you had mentioned like your dad's education,
Right.
and then mom's education.
Right.
Okay, because you were over in Germany at 55.
Right.
And so what was the education system that mom went through?
Okay. I'll go back to my dad real quick.
All right.
My dad went to high school at in Pittsburgh at, I think it was Catholic Central, South Catholic or Catholic Central High School.
Right.
Okay, and he got out of high school and he had taken drafting, calculus, he had taken all that stuff.
Right.
And he could actually sit down and design a house almost as good as an architect.
Did he graduate
from high school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, the education at that level was probably junior college degree today, maybe even more. So, kids graduated were smart. They knew about the country. They knew how to do stuff. They learned in school.
He could, out of high school, he could build a house. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. If he had to, he could build a house. And he did through my childhood when my dad was alive. He remodeled. He pine walled the house. He did all kinds of stuff: bathrooms, plumbing, electricity, design it, build it.
Right.
And he did that. He was in construction, so he did that. That's what his job was. In Germany, and I don't remember, Mom, they started school like we did. I don't believe they had a kindergarten. So I think at 6 years old, you start first grade.
Right.
And you go 8 years to school. And there are the top 10% or 5% may have an opportunity to go to higher education.
Right.
But it's very competitive. It was in the mid 40s.
Right.
So Mom goes to school and I think it was a Catholic school. We should ask her. But she goes to school. The reason I'm not sure is because they had lay teachers also. And she goes to school for her 8 years. Right. And at the end of 8 years, she's 14 years old.
Right.
At the end of that period of time, you pick a profession that you're trying to go into.
Right.
And you do an apprenticeship.
Right.
And the apprenticeship for almost all jobs was a minimum of 3 years. If you're a florist, if you're a salesperson in a department store, if you're a hairdresser, it's a 3-year apprenticeship. Okay, some of the harder skills like machinist and some other skills were 4-year apprenticeships. And so you got out of high school, you got yourself an apprenticeship, and there were plenty available. You went to work.
Now, coming out of 8th grade, could she read?
Well, yeah. I mean, they went to school year round.
Yeah, but we watched a video where kids are coming out of our high schools. A significant percentage of them can't read.
Yeah. Well, again, Joe, I go back to historically, we had schools that taught. You had great teachers. Now you have indoctrinations, not education. I mean, you're going in there, if you want to trans, they're not going to tell your parents if you want to do this or that. That in the 40s, we didn't have that anywhere in the world. And so Mom, when she got out, she wanted to be a hairdresser.
Right.
So she went to work, she had an apprenticeship at a hairdresser. Well, she didn't, the family that she was apprenticing for used her as a step and fetch it.
Right.
In the wintertime, they'd send her to their house before they quit. And so she'd build fires and get the house nice and comfortable for them. Because in Germany, almost everything was heated by a coal stove in the house. Right. Or a fireplace somewhere in the house that was iron and gave off heat. And she said, I'm not somebody's maid. I want to learn a profession. So I think her dad got her a job there's a florist across the street from the graveyard. Right. And I think she went there, and then you have to clear this with her, but
Yeah.
I think she went there for a couple of months.
Right.
And then her neighbor, people lived across the street and they were very good friends with, were the last name was Bush.
Mhm.
And the dad, he said, hey, I have a friend who's a manager at Wessel Shoe Factory. Are you interested in going down there and seeing if they can hire you? And she said yes. So I think she was probably just turning, they're 15, and she was going to go to work with Wessels. But in school, they still had to go in ninth grade, they still had to go like 2 days a week or 1 day a week to learn check writing and stuff you would need to function in society.
Right.
And they would teach them that. And then she went to work at Wessels.
Right.
And Wessels was, it was a factory, had a union. It was,
Shoe factory.
yeah, but they had standards of how many pairs of shoes you had to put out. Mom was a cutter. She cut leather by hand.
Yeah.
Okay. And they had minimums. And so they would pay you more if you did more.
Right.
What was the word for that?
Piecework.
Piecework, yeah. And of course, I mean, you've been around Mom long enough to know that there's not too much that she can't do with her hands. And she could go in there and cut as many as they wanted cut, but all her buddies had a number and they all stuck to that number. They had the union that was in the union,
Right.
and they sort of dictated what the number was. And so Mom.
That's where you met her. She's working in the shoe factory.
Yeah, she's working at Wessels when I meet her.
All right. So let's go to 1965. What were you doing in 1965?
So 1965, we'd gotten back from Germany.
Right.
We'd gone to Massachusetts. We went into Massachusetts
I thought we were in Baumholder.
in 65.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. We haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, we've already done 64.
Okay, so 64 we're in Germany. 65 we're in Germany, and I'm the NCOIC of a control center that's controlling Nike Ajax and Nike Hercules missiles.
Right.
And again, I said what each of them were, but the Nike Hercules, you could not only do surface to air, you could do surface to surface. And part of the training we did was to calculate the requirements that you needed to do if you want to do a surface burst. And so that the training was the same training we did for all control centers, aircraft coming in, exercises, integrated with other batteries and other sources of defense like the Air Force. And so we did that, and
So you do all these different scenarios all the time.
Yeah, it's all you did. Again, you go up and make sure everything's up to speed, doesn't need repair. You need to repair it, you repair it. You have maintenances, you do maintenance, and then you train.
Right. Now, do you have any sort of special clearance to do this job?
Yeah, when I moved from truck driving to the control center in Pittsburgh, South Park, I got a top secret clearance. And top secret clearance, they actually go back and ask the people that you say your references,
right?
And they ask those people who you knew in common, then they go ask other people,
right?
Because I had people that I had known as a kid, and they had told me that they had gotten quizzed about what kind of person I was and who they knew that I knew that
right.
They could go. And so it was actually a background investigation, and they did it.
Right.
But at 16, 17 years old, and then from then you're in the military, it's pretty easy to find out what you've done.
Yeah. Now, did you have travel restrictions because of that? Was there places you couldn't go or things you couldn't do?
Yeah, you couldn't travel on. It depended. We weren't allowed to go into the East Zone at all. When in Germany, you couldn't go to Berlin, even cross into Berlin, unless you went on a military aircraft and landed in West Berlin. Wow. So I went over later I had some overseas tours, and if you were carrying classified information, you couldn't fly in a foreign carrier. So there's some restrictions on where you could go and what you could do. But I mean, basically, yeah, I had top secret clearance. It's not like you run around and say, "Oh boy, I got a top secret clearance."
All right. So what was Mom doing during this time?
165, Mom went to
Yeah.
work in the snack bar in Baumholder. And I mean, she worked.
That's military.
Yeah, it's on base. It's on base snack bar movie, but she worked at the snack bar and she got the hours she wanted.
Right.
Dodie's there, so we have she has somebody to watch Jackie, and you're in school.
Right. This is where Dodie's out visiting the sheepherders.
Yeah, this is where
Yeah.
Dodie's. She visits the sheep, and the guy who's tending them and the dog are out there. Her and Jackie are out there every day. And we do that through 66, through 65.
All the way through.
Yeah,
right,
I mean,
through the year.
It's pretty normal. About once a month we go to Augsburg to see Oma and Mom's sister Muchka. Jackie would, as soon as we got there, she had had Dodie's house with Dodie, and they'd come up for meals and visit us. But in general, she stayed with Dodie all the time.
Right.
And again, she was then fluent in German. She's still fluent in German.
Okay. I have some notes about a first communion.
Yeah, that was where, and I'm not sure of the date, but
right.
In Augsburg, Oma had a friend, Herb Bowersman.
Right.
I think we remembered his name the other day.
Yeah.
And Herb Bowersman was a typical elderly German guy that took care of everything that he owned. If he owned it, it worked. And he had hand clippers. Today you have electric clippers and get a haircut. Right. But in the old days, they had hand clippers. Same thing, same concept, except there was no power. You use your hands to power. Well, he had those things that are immaculately sharp. And, you were hanging out, you and him were doing something, and you decided to give yourself a reverse mohawk. Instead of having hair in the middle of your head, you had no hair in the middle of your head. And of course, your mother saw that and just went ballistic. And she corrected it and we got you a haircut, but you'd really dug in at the front of your head. So
I did a good job there.
Yeah, you did a great job. There was no fixing it. And you made you got your communion with your almost military haircut.
Okay. So what's going on back in your hometown, back in Pennsylvania in '65?
Well, again, the bow factory had an enormous fire.
Right.
And
accidental or on purpose?
I don't think it was ever ruled arson.
Right.
But a lot of people who worked there and people in the family had
suspicions,
different opinions. And of course, my mother lost her job, Pete lost his job, and so they're both unemployed. Pete's sister, Thelma, had moved to Huntington Beach, California, and she invited them to come out and, while they're looking, to come out and spend a week or so in California, in Southern California. And they went out there, and Pete found out that Lockheed was looking for people to build airplanes, and he went out and applied and got hired. And so he went to work, and my mother went back to Pittsburgh, sold everything, and went to Los Angeles.
And that's where they continued to live for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, they lived in. They actually started managing an apartment. My mother would manage the apartment.
Right.
It was on 2nd Street in Long Beach, which was 2 streets away from the beach. A really nice location. And Pete was be the guy who, if anything broke in any of the apartments, he'd fix it because he could fix anything.
Right.
And then he started. He was still working for Lockheed.
Right.
But in the process of working for Lockheed, he started doing things for people, like fix stuff. And then they had friends, or he got introduced to people who were trying to build this in their office or that in their office. And he started doing that part-time.
Carpentry work.
Well, any plumbing, carbon, anything.
Right.
Again, he's
Handyman stuff.
yeah, anything you could want. And he was really talented, sort of like my dad. And I'm not sure what year that things slowed down with Lockheed, lost the job, but he immediately started his own business, and they did fine. He was doing rebuilding doctors' offices, lawyers' offices. He was going in there and building stuff that were built into the walls and desks and all kinds of stuff. So they landed on their feet, and they moved out of that house and bought their own on Gladys Avenue, which was about 17 blocks
Right.
from the beach.
Now, how about your grandparents? What's happened to them by 1965?
Okay, my grandmother died, I'm going to say in 56, 55, when I was in Germany.
Right.
And we came home in 1959 in June or July, and my grandfather died right after we got home. He was sick. I think he had cancer, and he was dying when we got home. And shortly after we got there, he died.
So by 1960, they had both passed.
Yeah, they're both gone.
Okay. And so in terms of work, you did the missile thing and bomb holder for the rest of 65?
Yeah, it did. So same. It was pretty much the same routine through 65.
Okay. All right.
I can't think anything that was different.